in our headlines on this Tuesday afternoon, April 23rd, here on the Korean Peninsula. North Korea's state-run media says the regime on Monday conducted a military exercise that simulated a strategic counterattack against the US and South Korea with nuclear warheads. Meanwhile, over in Hawaii this week, delegates from Seoul and Washington are sitting down to discuss the sharing of expenses involved in maintaining American troops in South Korea. Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok presides over a meeting of an advisory panel, including scholars for talks on policies to respond to the potential economic fallout from tensions in the Middle East. North Korea has conducted its first nuclear counter-attack drill, and South Korea believes the latest drill seeks more than simply a show of strength. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung explains.
North Korea has revealed it staged tactical drills simulating a nuclear counterattack using super-large multiple rocket launchers for the very first time. The training, guided by the regime's leader Kim Jong-un on Monday, was focused on strengthening the regime's nuclear counteroffensive using 600mm multiple rocket launchers. The North state-run newspaper Rodong Sinmun reported Tuesday morning that Kim was satisfied with the rocket's accuracy. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff detected the launch of multiple KN-25 ballistic missiles at around 3 p.m. Monday, launched toward the East Sea from the Pyongyang area. The North said the drills were conducted to send a clear warning to its enemies, as it denounced Seoul and Washington's recent joint air drills for raising tensions. But South Korea's military has said that there is another motive behind the launch, promoting exports to Russia.
We believe there is a complex purpose, like demonstrating the performance of the super-large multiple rocket launchers for exports.
According to the regime, the rockets hit its island target at a range of 352 kilometers. This is approximately equal to the distance from Pyongyang to South Korea's Gaeryongdae military headquarters. The South Korean military stressed that it has a system in place to detect and intercept ballistic missiles if they were to fly toward the south.
International security cooperation, including trilateral cooperation between South Korea, the US, and Japan, will be further strengthened. If North Korea attempts to use nuclear weapons, it will face an immediate, overwhelming, and decisive response from the ROK-US alliance, and the regime will come to an end.
South Korea and the US both strongly condemned the launch. The US State Department hinted that the issue will be addressed during Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to China this week. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
And while North Korea may be applauding advances in its hostile weapons ambitions, the regime's human rights record remains appalling, according to the latest annual findings by the U.S. State Department. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
The U.S. State Department on Monday released the 2023 country reports on human rights practices, where it highlighted North Korea's continued human rights violations. While this year's report was generally similar to last year's, the 2023 report emphasized North Koreans being repatriated after COVID-19 restrictions begin to loosen in the regime. Repatriation has been a key issue for the U.S. amid concerns that North Koreans who are caught after escaping the North could face harsh treatment after being sent back home. The report also noted other serious human rights issues, such as public executions, torture, arbitrary arrest, and detention. The annual report pointed out involuntary or coercive medical practices, harsh prison conditions, as well as cases of coerced abortion or forced sterilization and human trafficking. It further elaborated on other human rights violations, such as those attempting to leave the country without permission, being killed on the spot, or publicly executed, while guards at political prison camps are said to be under orders to shoot to kill anyone attempting to escape. It added that freedom of expression, movement, assembly, and association are prohibited, with an assessment that basic human rights are not guaranteed in North Korea. Every year, the State Department publishes a report on the human rights situation in countries around the world, including South Korea and North Korea, which is required by law to be submitted to Congress. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Delegates from Seoul and Washington are sitting down in Hawaii on Tuesday to address the sharing of expenses involved in maintaining American troop presence here in South Korea. Our Iani reports.
South Korea and the United States' new round of talks on defense cost sharing starts on Tuesday local time in Hawaii. This is the first meeting since Seoul and Washington named their chief negotiators early last month. Lee Tae-woo, formerly the Consul General in Sydney, will lead South Korea's delegation. He will engage in talks with a U.S. delegation led by Linda Specht, a senior advisor and U.S. lead negotiator for security agreements at the State Department, who on Monday said the United States seeks fair and equitable outcomes in the Special Measures Agreement for defense cost sharing aimed at strengthening and maintaining the alliance with South Korea. The 12th Special Measures Agreement outlines the cost-sharing arrangement between South Korea and the U.S. for approximately 25,500 U.S. Forces Korea personnel. Since 1991, South Korea has been shouldering some of the costs of stationing of U.S. troops in Korea, including labor, logistics, and construction costs. The two countries have regularly engaged in negotiations on how to share these expenses, with the latest deal signed in 2021 and set to remain in effect until the end of next year.
I will do my best to ensure that a rational level of defense cost sharing is achieved to provide a stable stationing environment for the deployment of U.S. Forces Korea, an essential element of this combined defense posture between South Korea and the U.S.
The early talks on the Special Measures Agreement, despite its effective start date in 2026, are viewed as an unusual move, with speculation that it is aimed at securing an agreement before the potential re-election of former U.S. President Donald Trump. During his presidency, Trump demanded that South Korea pay up to $5 billion a year. However, the South Korean Foreign Ministry has dismissed this speculation, saying that the early preparations are not related to the November election. Under the latest Special Measures Agreement, South Korea agreed to a 13.9% increase in its contribution from 2019 to $1.3 billion for 2021. Lee Eun-hee, Arirang News.
And President Yoon Suk-yeol played host to his Romanian counterpart earlier on this Tuesday at the Yongsan Presidential Office, where the two leaders sealed deals on defense and more. Our senior correspondent, that is, Oh Soo-young, reports.
South Korea and Romania agreed to strengthen their strategic bilateral ties, inking deals to cooperate on defense, weaponry and nuclear power plants. That's according to a joint statement released by President Yoon Suk-yeol and his Romanian counterpart Klaus Iohannis following their summit at the Yongsan Presidential Office on Tuesday. Building on their existing bilateral consultations on defense-related issues, the two nations agreed to ramp up cooperation in jointly producing military equipment and defense technology. The two also agreed to work together to address cybersecurity and showed interest in advancing negotiations for the Korea-European Union Security Partnership. Another key outcome was nuclear energy, as Seoul seeks opportunities for its companies to win contracts to build small modular reactors abroad. The two governments signed a memorandum of understanding to establish nuclear energy cooperation, including on nuclear facility enhancement, nuclear fuel, nuclear waste management, as well as personnel development and information on supply chains. While committing to non-proliferation and the civil use of nuclear power, they agreed on the importance of nuclear technology in meeting global net zero targets, with Romania backing South Korea's carbon-free energy initiative. The two nations will also increase cooperation on infrastructure development, based on a deal reached last May between Busan Port Authority and Romania's Port of Constanța. Based on their shared values of democracy, human rights and the rule of law, the two countries agreed on the need to strengthen multilateralism, especially in the face of global security challenges. They condemned North Korea's illegal nuclear and missile programs, calling for its denuclearization and the human rights of its oppressed citizens. Seoul and Bucharest also criticized Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, agreeing to ramp up collective pressure on Moscow through restrictive measures. Amid global supply chain disruptions and the ongoing transition to green energy, the two countries agreed to build on South Korea and the EU's frameworks, including on free trade, economic security, and green and digital partnerships. With bilateral ties stretching back to 1990, this marks the first time in 16 years that a Romanian leader has visited South Korea. Following his summit with Yoon and a meeting with Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, Iohannis will visit power plant builder Tusan Enerbility's Changwon factory on Wednesday before he leaves for Romania on Thursday. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Also here in Seoul, Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok presided over a meeting of an advisory panel, including scholars in the fields of economy and international affairs on this Tuesday. The panel was earlier launched to allow for strategic talks on national policies to better respond to the potential economic fallout from tensions in the Middle East. According to Minister Choi, the government will seek to closely monitor the situation in that region and work to devise prompt and effective response measures. Members of the advisory panel include pundits from Sogang University, Asan Institute for Policy Studies and more. In other news, Korea's wholesale prices rose for the fourth month in a row in March. According to the Bank of Korea on Tuesday, the country's producer price index, a barometer of future inflation, was up 0.2% on month. The price index of agricultural goods gained 1.3% as the cost of cabbage soared 36%, while that of seaweed surged some 20%. With regard to the reason behind the price hike of seaweed, the bank claimed demand, especially that overseas, outpaced supply. Over in the U.S., Donald Trump's criminal trial is underway, with both the prosecution and defense making compelling opening statements on Monday. Our Yoon-jin has the latest.
On Monday, the prosecution and Donald Trump's defense made their opening statements at the former president's hush money trial, the first criminal trial of a former U.S. president. The final jurors were seated on Friday, and all eyes will be on New York Supreme Court Judge Juan Merchant as he oversees the first criminal trial of a former U.S. president. Trump has pleaded not guilty to all 34 charges of falsifying business records related to an accusation that a payment of $130,000 was made to porn star Stormy Daniels in return for keeping quiet about an alleged encounter between Daniels and Trump. For opening statements, prosecutor Matthew Colangelo argued election fraud, saying that Donald Trump had a scheme to corrupt the 2016 election by silencing people who were about to come forward with embarrassing stories that may hurt his campaign. The prosecution argued that it wasn't political spin or a communication strategy to avoid bad press, but that it was a planned and highly coordinated scheme of illegal hush money expenditures. Meanwhile, opening statements from Trump's defense attacked the case as baseless, saying the former president did nothing illegal, arguing that Trump was trying to protect his family, reputation, and name brand. While leaving the courtroom on Monday, Trump downplayed the trial, calling it a very minor bookkeeping case, and that it was indeed about an election, not the 2016 election, but the one this November, saying that it was a Democratic attempt to disrupt his chances at reclaiming the presidency.
And over here, I did nothing wrong also. This is a Biden witch hunt to keep me off the campaign trail. So far, it's not working because my poll numbers are higher than they've ever been because the public understands that it's a witch hunt. Thank you very much.
The first witness for the prosecutors was former National Enquirer publisher David Pecker, also a longtime friend of Trump's. He took the witness stand before court broke for the day, and his testimony is expected to continue on Tuesday. Yoon-jin, Arirang News.
In sports news, Team Korea is heading into the quarterfinals of the Under-23 Asian Cup. The advance follows its defeat of Japan by 1-0, that is, on Monday in Qatar to rank number 1 in Group B. Midfielder Kim Min-woo, a second-half substitute, scored a goal in the 75th minute. Team Korea will now face Group A runner-up Indonesia Thursday evening local time, which would be in the wee hours of Friday morning Korea time. The top 3 teams at this competition are guaranteed a spot at the Summer Olympics in Paris this year. In our interview segment this week, we learn about Korea's efforts to better accommodate its foreign workforce amid its shrinking and aging population. My colleague Kim Do-yeon has details.
The number of foreigners with the E9 non-professional working visa has grown fast, with around 165,000 issued in 2024, especially as the productive population declines. The country will keep needing more of these workers. But unless it acts now, it won't continue to be an easy option. That's according to Professor Kim Seok-ho of Seoul National University, who leads a special subcommittee on co-living with foreign workers under the Presidential Committee for National Cohesion.
Japan and Taiwan, just 5 to 10 years ago, had very strict policies on foreign workers. They had conservative policies towards them, but that all changed. With this comparison, there's not much time left for South Korea to gain an advantage over these countries in hosting foreign workers, as the country is now competing with others for a quality foreign workforce.
This special committee is already the third one related to the foreign population in South Korea. As it focuses on the workers, it has four main goals to tackle as the country has a long way to go in accommodating foreign workers. A more customized workforce supply system and a means to attract and cultivate overseas talent being one among others. To achieve this, different suggestions will be considered, including a comprehensive statistical analysis.
We think creating a database with the Justice Ministry to check on who comes in and out of South Korea when it comes to the workforce would be useful. But in reality, South Korea doesn't have any comprehensive data on foreign workers.
Even President Yoon Suk-yeol last year emphasized that the past governments had put off the responsibility to take care of the foreign population as he made an unusual appearance to participate in a subcommittee meeting on this particular issue.
또 불합리한 인식이면 국민들의 그 생각이 좀 바뀔 수 있도록 변화를 또 이끌어내고 그렇게 해서 국제사회 어디에 그 내놓더라도 부끄럽지 않은 글로벌 중추국가로서의 그 역할과 그 위상에 부합하는 그러한 정책을 저희가 가지고 있어야 된다고 생각합니다.
In fact, that's one of the most important duties of this ongoing subcommittee. National Cohesion Committee Chair Kim Han-gil said foreign workers need to be part of a, quote, new us, as he kicked it off last month.
Please explore ways to not only view immigrant workers as mere tools of labour, but as new members of our community who can work and grow together as a new us.
Professor Kim said it's impossible for the ongoing committee to come up with answers to all the problems that foreigners face to make their lives in South Korea better. But the new us aspect should certainly be one of the top priorities.
It's not just about forcing immigrants to adapt to living here. It's equally about us adapting to them.
The subcommittee will run for another 2 months and then report its findings during its 100 days of operation to the president. The point of this special subcommittee, Professor Kim said, is to make sure that citizens are included in the process of coming up with good answers. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. In the Philippines, around 17,000 Filipino and American troops began a joint military training exercise on Monday involving maritime drills in the South China Sea. The annual Balikatan, or shoulder-to-shoulder drills, will last until May 10th amid tensions with China over Beijing's expansive claims in the disputed South China Sea. Tensions over the waters have resulted in a diplomatic row and heated maritime encounters between the Philippines and China. This year's drill is the second largest joint military exercise, closely following last year's in scale. Reports have said that the drills will simulate a retake of islands near Taiwan. The Chinese military criticized the drills, saying that the sea should not be an arena for gunboat diplomacy. Moving over to the US now, and a crackdown on pro-Palestinian protests at universities that saw arrests made and classes shifted online. Police arrested 47 demonstrating students at Yale University on Monday who had blocked traffic as they called for the university to cut ties with weapons manufacturers. On the same day, Columbia University in New York halted in-person classes after tent encampments were set up on university grounds last week. Over 100 protesters were arrested at Columbia the week before, with some students also suspended. New York City Mayor Eric Adams blasted protesters for blatant anti-Semitism, but organizers hit back, saying individuals making inflammatory comments did not represent them. Now to Gaza, and news of a Palestinian baby girl delivered from the womb of her mother who had been killed in an Israeli airstrike attack last week. The baby was delivered in an emergency C-section, weighing just 1.4 kilograms from a dead mother, Sabrine Al-Sakani, who was 30 weeks pregnant. The newborn girl was reportedly stable after being placed in an incubator in a hospital in the city of Rafah. The infant's father and sister were also killed in the attack. In sports news, Inter Milan have won the top Italian football league, Serie A, securing the Scudetto with 5 games to spare after their 2-1 win over AC Milan on Monday. Inter's Francesco Acerbi and Marcus Thuram scored 1 each before AC Milan's Fikayo Tomori got a goal back in the 80th minute. Inter Milan dominated this season, having had only 1 league defeat and only 18 goals conceded, the fewest in Serie A. Securing their 20th Serie A title, Inter Milan now have the second most titles from Italy's top league, only behind Juventus. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. After an unexpectedly sunny Monday in the capital, now we are back to cloudy skies with spring rain in the forecast. Rain will start from Jeju and the east of Gangwon-do this afternoon before spreading nationwide by late tonight. And this band of rain will continue into tomorrow. East of Gangwon-do could see up to 40 millimeters. The rest of the country could see up to 30 millimeters of showers. Meanwhile, Gyeongsang-do provinces and Jeju Island will be quite windy as well. As the rain clouds move in late tonight in central regions, it should be as warm as yesterday during the day with an expected high of 25 degrees Celsius here in the capital. But the rest of the country should notice cooler highs at 19 degrees in Daegu, and East Coast regions continue to see highs in the mid-teens. After a rainy and cool Wednesday, sunshine and warmth return on Thursday, and it should stay that way through the weekend. But it looks like it's going to rain on Jeju Island on Friday and Saturday. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions. Right, and that ends our afternoon newscast for this Tuesday. Coming up next is our daily panel session, and today we address the phenomenon of streamflation. Do stay with us.